I'm actually a youth work coordinator at Lamb Hill Stables, and what I have to clarify with everybody every time we talk about the stables, we don't have any horses. Um, there's no horses. It's an old stables building that was just an empty shell. It used to be a stables for the canal boats, the horses that would take the canal boats along the canal before we had engines and things like that. It was all the Clydesdale horses that would tow them. But yeah, in 2007, there was no roof, there was no windows. It was just this empty building, and it was redeveloped to become a community hub where we have now a cafe. They have arts and crafts classes. They have a huge community garden with volunteers that are growing veg that goes into the cafe, for example, making some of their soups, their salads, and things like that. Albeit at the minute with COVID, nothing's being made in the kitchen at present. There's also the bike hub where they do repairs and they also sell refurbished bikes and bike parts, which is right along the canal towpath again. So it's a good little connection for those that are cycling throughout Glasgow or going into places like Auchenstary and beyond, or even going on to Edinburgh if you're feeling brave enough on the bike. But yeah, we have our youth club that's based there as well. And one of the big things that young people really kind of felt, if you look at the image of the building, if you were to have a walk in, nothing really shouted out to young people that this was a place for them. And ever since it's been refurbished, it does look quite grown up, a place for grown ups to be. They have things like the lunch clubs for the elderly people in the community, clubs for, knitting groups and things like that. So on the outside, and even walking in, nothing was designated as a youth space for them. And since I've been working in the youth club since 2017, we've shared all of the spaces. So in the evenings, the youth club, the building becomes ours, and so we were able to use the cafe space, the art room, and things like that. But again, it wasn't their own space, and it was always a case of telling them, look after the space and, don't touch any of the paintings on the wall. And it just wasn't theirs. So this kind of developed this kind of project, similar actually to what Alan was saying. We now have a shipping container, which used to be the bike hub, and it was now gifted to the youth club to be redeveloped as a space for them. And the outside area, part of the community garden, which was a kind of neglected space, I would say, in comparison to the rest of the community garden. It was just off to the side. That became the youth garden, and this was then a project to kind of redevelop this little space to become much more visible as a place for young people to hang out, to join the youth club, but even out with youth club, just somewhere that they could be and feel like they were safe and listened to, and it was just somewhere that they were welcome to be in the community. But yeah, so again, the pandemic, as everyone has all said, we were quite lucky that we were able to quickly develop our youth clubs to being online. And I would say the first lockdown, young people really embraced it, and it was something new for them. We had to kind of rejig how we did our activities. That we jumped on the back of some of the fitness stuff and did workouts online. We did mindfulness online and lots of games and things, but it was hard to do a lot of workshops and giving them things to do online because you couldn't quite see what they were doing. Coming out of last summer, we were able to kind of do a little bit of the project, looking at the garden space and then looking at the whole community, and really start to use the Young Place Changers toolkit to kind of see not only what the young people wanted and using their voice and their opinions, but putting it then to members of the public, some of the local schools and primaries, as to what they also kind of felt that they would want for this area. And then we had our second lockdown, and really that was the biggest impact, I would say, on the young people, because everyone had Zoom fatigue, and it was darker days, less daylight, and so their mental health, we could really see taking an impact, and I would say our mental health was taking one as well. So it was really hard to kind of get them going with the project. So that kind of put us on the back foot. But once we were able to meet up again, kind of March, April this year, things really kind of stepped up quite considerably a gear. Although we're still waiting on some of our materials to arrive, because we've not only had lockdown, we've also had Brexit and lots of things being shipped over from other countries through Amazon and B&Q and all these other trades and stuff like that. We're still waiting on things, so it's another little hurdle to jump through. But yeah, so the young people have really been enjoying the fact that they're using their garden space. They're using it not just as a place to play and hang out. They've wanted to grow things that they're actually going to use and cook with. We're setting up a barbecue space, and we've now got a fire pit area, so we can actually do some outdoor cooking with them. But they've also looked at places like the whole community garden. We've got ponds there and loads of flowers and different veg growing. And they've kind of wanted to give back a little bit to nature as well. So we've had things like building bug hotels, installing bat homes, solitary bee houses, and we've got a new insect bug hotel that's been installed into the youth garden, as well as a large grass mound, which is also going to be changing in the next couple of weeks as well, because now we're looking at still having the grass mound, but making it into a hibernacula, which is a place for newts and frogs and toads to kind of to hibernate in and hide in the warmer weather. So it'll still be a grass mound, but there'll be wood going through it, so it'll have lots of little nooks and crannies for them to go. And there'll be signs put up to say, don't mow the grass in this area. But the biggest thing, and I think a few projects have talked about benches and what we've created in the youth garden, with huge thanks to the volunteer gardeners who have really embraced working with the young people. And it's been a nice kind of intergenerational project as well. Have helped create some raised beds and an L-shaped bench, which is in a really nice sunny spot of the shipping container. And it's a place for then, we can deliver youth work out there, we can do outdoor projects with them, but it's somewhere even out with the youth club. It's just a place that they can hang out with their friends. There's solar lighting that's going around the fencing area that's getting put up as well, so it'll be quite well lit. And there's a new floodlight that's been put on at the rear end of the stables building. So yeah, it's just somewhere that it's going to be a bit more prominent for them, and they're going to feel like they're seen, they're being respected, and they matter to the community as well. So that's been quite a big thing for them. So yeah, we had some raised beds that have been there for a long time, and they really needed a bit of TLC. So we've refurbished them, we've relined them, put in new compost in there. One of them's going to be for growing their veg, so things like carrots and tomatoes and potatoes, which will do really well, but will also then be able to be used on things like the barbecue and the fire pit to do some cooking. They want to maybe do some courgettes and other things, so it'll be things that they really want to eat. And we've been really lucky that there's been a project going on putting up a Roman head statue as part of the Antonine Wall. And the builders have had loads of wooden pallets, and they've been so gracious to just gift us their pallets so that we can install them as part of the fencing. And rather than making another raised bed, we can use the pallets to create little troughs within them so that we can then grow edible plants like herbs and things like that, so that they can also use that for in the barbecue. But it's trying to make as much of the flowers that are at child height level all edible or sensory and things that they can smell. So yeah, and again, refurbishing lots of things. So we've got some old car tires that they've painted up and put in some lavender, so plants that are really good for pollinating, which will help the veg and the fruit grow, but also it will bring in a lot more nature into the garden area. So yeah. They've also done things like with the L-shaped bench, they've been thinking of, they've done things like rock painting. There's a Facebook page called the Kindness Rocks Project, and it's really about kind of suicide awareness and trying to encourage people that they're not alone and there's help out there. So they've used a lot of the Kindness Rocks rock painting to kind of send that kind of message with things like phone numbers for Sam H and breathing space and things like that. So it's not just again aimed at them. It's a place that it can be sort of contemplative, and a place that can look after the whole community and not just young people and their mental health. But yeah, so we had a lot of help from Louise Smith at Frog Life, really kind of advising us on the nature side of things, of how to look after the young people, but how to look after nature as well, and not take up more of the wildlife space.